Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
All right, welcome to another episode of the 49ers roster countdown. We're going 90 all the way to 1, and the criteria is simple. Who will have the biggest impact on the 2022 NFL season for the 49ers? And we have number 51 today, defensive tackle Kevin Givens. Highlight reel. There's no doubt about it. Defensive tackle that is a penetrating, disruptive, slasher, undersized for sure. He's small, 6'1", 285, 25 years old. Undrafted free agent out of Penn State. We're going to dive into his high school, his college, what he's done for the 49ers, because he's entering into his 4th season with the 49ers, and he's got a ceiling. It's pretty stinking high. The problem is consistency, because he's so small. It makes him a little bit matchup dependent. But this is also a player who took every single first-team rep through camp, OTAs and minicamp, with Eric Armstead and Kinlaw not getting snaps. So 49ers are high on this kid, and they have developed him very well. Only 25 years old, so even though he's entering his 4th season, he is relatively young. Some of these undrafted free agents are almost as old as he is. Now, he's from Altoona High School in Pennsylvania, just east of Pittsburgh, right next to the Penn State campus. Really not far at all. But he played for the Mountain Lions of Altoona High School. And whenever he was in high school, he was a defensive end, all-state Pennsylvania player, and fullback. So it kind of lets you know his mobility, his toughness, his athleticism, all those things are there. As a senior in high school, he's first-team All-State on defense and rushed for 6 touchdowns, 317 yards as a fullback. He was the 16th best prospect coming out of Pennsylvania, and was selected to play in the 2015 Big 33 Classic, which, again, if you get invited to that, you're a pretty big-time high school football player in Penn State. Now, whenever he went to Penn State, he landed 3 big accolades during his time there. Big Ten All-Freshman, which is difficult to get. He had 4.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss as a freshman. Sophomore year, he received the Jim O'Hara Award in 2018, which is presented once a year to a defensive player on Penn State for exemplary conduct, loyalty, interest, attitude, and improvement. His junior year, redshirt junior year, just continued on that pace, didn't excel quite like he was hoping to or other people were hoping to, and he declared early for the draft. Now, when he did that, some people had kind of a 5th, 6th round grade on him. He ended up going undrafted altogether, which, great for the 49ers, but he definitely had the hopes that he was going to get drafted. But before he left Penn State, he played in 36 games, 13.5 career sacks, 22 tackles for loss, 4 passes defense, 3 fumbles recovered. Now he goes to the combine, does fairly well, ran a 5.08 40, pretty good. Bench press was what strength. This dude's small and strong, and that's how he wins in football as well. He put up 32 reps of 225 pounds. That's in the top 87th percentile of defensive tackles in the NFL. He's strong, short, strong. 3 cones, 7.6, not great. Vertical 31, incredible. Now it's funny, I put him through the mock draftable player, whatever, where you want to see who else in the NFL, and it goes all the way back since the combine started, who he matches with the most. His closest match, none other than another 49ers player, Maurice Hurst. the 49ers got a type at defensive tackle. They want the giant, big-bodied run stuffer, or they want the small, nimble, penetrating disruptor in the backfield. So they really have these 2 different types that they want. And he's my film grades, my film notes on him, low center of gravity, which helps because he's so short. And I say he's short. He's short compared to 6'5" linemen, right? So he can get up underneath them, and he uses that to his advantage. Plays with great leverage, and shows his upper body strength. He can move those 300-pound dudes with ease because he's always up under. When you're watching defensive tackle film or O-line or D-line film in general, if you're watching in the run game, you're paying attention to hat. Whose hat's lower, right? Whose helmet's lower? And he wins that battle 90% of the time, which helps him. And I'll say this too. He either wins early or he doesn't win. You know, he either gets a great get off with great leverage and he can maintain his gap, but consistency's been the issue. And if he doesn't win early, it's just like, this is going to get bad. Doesn't anchor well. He's a matchup problem for both teams. If you're playing against a team that does duo a lot, which is basically the offensive line will double team both defensive tackles, I'm not putting him in there. I'm just not going to play him. If he's playing against a zone team, very similar to what the 49ers do, where they're moving laterally, then I love him because he's very difficult to get reached. He's very, very good at that. So it's interesting because some teams, and this has been reflective in his play, he's either living in the backfield or you don't even know he's on the field. So he's either dominating or he's just taking snaps so that your starters can get a break. So he's very matchup dependent. So if the 49ers are playing against a strong gap, duo team and all that stuff, he's not going to get a lot of snaps. Good news is not a lot of teams in the NFC West do that. So he kind of fits with what they're doing. Now, he was an undrafted free agent in 2019. And whenever he came in, he signed, made it to the practice squad. Then he got promoted to the active roster, and he's kind of been there since. But he spent some time on the practice squad for the 49ers, and they developed him. They got a roster exemption for him December 2020, and he's been on and off the practice squad, off official roster, active roster, back and forth. He's played in 27 games. He's got one start. And again, these are his compiled NFL stats now. One start, one pass breakup, one forced fumble, one fumble recovery, one sack, 37 tackles, 6 tackle for losses. That's where he makes his money. That's where he was dominant in college. That's where he is here. Like he lives in the backfield or he's not going to make a play. 5 quarterback hits. So he's an interesting guy. Again, he took all the first team reps with Kinlaw and Armstead out of camp. So it lets you know, like, they see him as a very valuable and viable player with what they're trying to do defensively. Now, again, he has no similarities to Kinlaw and no similarities to Armstead, but they do value this undersized disruptor. And so there will be some games where I could see him getting 20 snaps. There will be some games where I see him getting 5 snaps. So it's kind of, and that's why we have him at 51. He's making the roster. I really do believe he's making the team. He plays the Bravo team as the backup defensive tackle, and that's going to be his role, where he goes in to give the starters a break. It's maybe perhaps if he gets one of those games where he's heating up NBA Jam style, you might get him some extra snaps. But that's kind of what he is. He is limited. It's probably going to take 1 to 2 injuries for him to get into the starting lineup. But I like him, and he's fun, and he's young, and he's really good at one thing, right? So when you're evaluating these players, and I do the same thing back whenever I'm doing my draft work, I asked 2 questions. Okay, how is this player going to be successful in the NFL? Why will this player not be successful in the NFL? And there's prominent answers to both those questions with Kevin Givens. He's just too small, and he doesn't anchor well, right? That's why it's not going to be successful. But he has proven in a very limited amount of snaps, even though he's played in 27 games, that guess what? He can get in the backfield. He can cause problems. And if he does that and gets one of those tackle for losses, now you're putting the opposing team behind the chains. So a 2nd and 13 is a dream scenario for a defensive coordinator. So that's why you keep a guy like this, because hey, he can get back there. He can ruin a drive. It might not be getting sacks, might not be hitting the quarterback near as much as you'd like, but if this dude gets 20 snaps, like, there's a strong chance that he's going to be in the backfield messing up the run game and pissing off some offensive coordinators. That's what Kevin Givens kind of does. So that's the question, or the answer for me, why he sticks around, is because he can cause some problems. He's a disruptor. So I love Kevin Givens. Excited to see what he can do this year. Hopefully he gets some more snaps and earn something for the future, because there's 4 defensive tackles on the last year of their deal. So it's contract year, baby. You want to stick around, you got to make something work and prove that you are a guy, and you can get a contract, a 2 or 3 year deal after this, because he hasn't made much money. So this is a money year for him. Hopefully he can go out and cash in on that. Want to say thank you to Anthony and Josh, the producers of this series. Number 51, Kevin Givens. We're just going to keep counting them down.